Our next type of graph is a histogram. So this is our lesson on histograms. Get your learning target down, 6SP4, and then our I can statement. I can display data using a histogram and read a histogram to analyze its data.
So in elementary school, we work a lot with a bar graph. A histogram is very similar to a bar graph. It's used to display numerical data, but this time, because it's numbers and not just types of colors or something
Days of the
else,
week.
yeah, it's organized into equal intervals, so it's easier to read. So we need to make sure that the intervals show the frequency or the distribution of the data. That'll be shown on our y-axis, and then it'll tell us how many pieces of data are in each interval. So you can go ahead.
All right, so take a look at our graph here before we try to answer a question. Here's what we're looking for. In a histogram, it's not going to be a single piece underneath of it. It's going to be a range or an interval. These have to be equal with each other. So anything that fell between 1 and 10 fell in this range. Anything in the 11 to 20. So notice how each of these ranges are the same size. And notice how the bars themselves are the same width. Since they contain the same number of possibilities, they're all the exact same size. And there's no gap in between the bars like you would see in a normal bar graph, because there's no gap between a 10 and an 11. Each interval feeds right into the next one, so there's no reason for a gap in between.
All right. Refer to the histogram shown. How many dogs in the class weigh more than 20 pounds? So as we look at our x-axis, we're looking for the bars that are 21 to 30, 31 to 40, and 41 to 50. So within each interval, we need to look on the y-axis, and we need to figure out how many are in the 21 to 30. So halfway between the 6 and the 8 would give us 7 for that interval. The 31 to 40 is halfway between the 2 and the 4, so it's 3. And the 41 to 50 is 1. To answer our question, we need to then add 7 plus 3 plus 1 to get 11 dogs that weigh more than 20 pounds.
So we looked at whatever interval was past the 20, because it said more than or greater than 20. So Mrs. King took everything that fell past that point on the
Bet you
histogram.
could have written an expression on that too. Woo!
Now we're going to go ahead and create a histogram. Most of the work's been done for us. They've already set up our scale going up on our vertical or our y-axis. They've labeled both axes as well as putting a title on it like any good graph. And they've already labeled our
Dude, step 1
intervals
and
here.
step 2 are already done.
Our data is up here in our frequency table. Here's our ranges, how many fell in the 20 to 29 age range, 30 to 39. We just tallied them up from a different set of data, and now we're going to use those frequencies to build our histogram. Remember, we talked about all the bars should be the same size and the same width. So since I know there's going to be 4 bars, I'm going to kind of divide it up so it's in 4 equal increments. Then we're going to pause for the nice...
Hey, Tracksters, your bus is here. Go ahead and head to the bus lane. Good luck tonight.
Good luck, Track. All right, go.
Now we're going to create each one of the bars to the right height based on the frequency. So in the 20 to 29 year range, there was 4. So we're going to draw a bar that goes up to 4. In the 30 to 39 range, we had 9. So it's going to continue right from the edge of the 4. No gap in between it. And we're going to try to make them as close to the same size or width as we can.
40 to 49 is going to give us 6. I like those even numbers. They go straight up. And then the 50 to 59, you're going to have to split it.
And that's my 1, halfway between 0 and 2. So notice each of the bars is as close to even in width as we can. And then they connect right to the other because 29 feeds right into 30, 39 into 40. So there's no reason for a gap in between the bars.
And keeping track of those intervals is going to be the key to our next example. In this example, the number of sodas sold daily is not organized into intervals for us, so we're going to have to do most of the work. Let's get a title on it before we forget to do so.
So
number of sodas sold daily is going to go on top. Sodas sold daily. We need to label our x and our y axis because that is step 1. So our x axis is going to be
the number of sodas.
Yeah, I thought you were going to use a number sign.
They just think it's a hashtag. They don't actually know that it's a number sign. Going up is going to be our frequency. And if this was a piece of paper, I could turn it sideways. but I know it's going to be even harder to read, so my label here should be frequency.
Step 2, we're going to need to make sure that we have an equal interval. So we're going to set it up in our frequency table as well as on our y-axis.
So we're going to look for our smallest number. I see a 51, and my highest number is a 94, which is right next to it. I missed it. So we need intervals that are going to take us from 51 all the way to 94.
Let's just do the 50 to 59 like the last couple have been set up. So the 50 to 59, then it's going to run right into that 60 to 69, 70 to 79, that 80 to 89, and that 90 to 99.
Now
the beginning and the end of those intervals is where most students make
Right. You don't have to start with the very first number. You don't need to end with the last one. You just need to make sure that beginning and ending is in one of those ranges. So don't try to count by 7s or 8s and make it fit. Go with nice, neat intervals. It'll make the counting much easier for you. It's okay that we started a little early and that we went past that highest number. That's not a big deal for us.
So he's going to change his colors and he's going to count all the 50s and put it in our...
I got 1, 2, 3. So I have a frequency of 3 for the 50 to 59.
Can you change your color again? Thanks.
Well, I got so many colors.
60, 69 is just 1.
1. I really changed colors for that.
Yes, you did.
All right. Now we're going to do the 70s. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
And that's right.
Now I'm going to try
Pink.
Yellow.
Oh.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
And then the 3 that are left are the 90s.
The pink isn't a solid line. It's one of those dashed lines.
I know, but I kind of like it looking on the table. But whatever. Looking at our frequency chart, we go from, we need at least 1 up to 8. So why don't we start at 0 and count by 2s? You guys go over this in science all the time, talking about what your scale should be and how they should be even along the y-axis. So now we have titles, labels, and a y-axis. We've got to set up our bars. So 50 to 59 on the x-axis.
So we're going to have 5 of them. So I like to just kind of divide it up so I know the size of them.
Visual, and that's the reason you're drawing and not me.
So 5 equal parts. The first one's going to be our 50 to 59.
60 to 69.
60 to 69.
70 to 79.
So you're just labeling each axis like its name.
80 to 89, 90 to 99, and apparently he made too many, but whatever. And now we're going to graph, making sure our widths are equal. So you're going up to 3 for the first one.
And then for the next one, we're going to go up to
Halfway.
1. Then we're going to go all the way up to 8. And this is where you got to work a little bit to make sure it's straight sides or straight-ish.
80 to 89.
And then I got another, is it another 8?
Yep, another 8. And then a 3 halfway between the 2 and the 4. There you go.
If you want to shade in the bars, you can, but we want each one of them to be the same width, so there shouldn't be one skinny one there and a whole bunch of other ones. And there shouldn't be no gaps whatsoever. There's not a gap between 59 to 60 as I'm counting, so there shouldn't be a gap between those two intervals on my graph.
In our own words, how is a histogram similar to a bar graph, or how is it different? A histogram is similar to bar graph because you are comparing categories.
It's also
quantities.
You're drawing bars, so it's a type of bar graph. But it's different in that it's the intervals here, so it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's a range of numbers for each of these intervals instead of a one individual piece, which is why we don't have any gaps in between the bars. They're not discrete, separate little parts. They all run together, so that's why the bars come run right after the other.
They have titles, x-axis label, y-axis labels, and they both use bars. So their components of each graph are very similar.
All right, have a good one.